Alright, hello again guys, it's Gregola Productions here, back again with the Style 66 series here, our Westclox Spur, where we've just reassembled the movement, and, well, mostly reassembled the movement anyway. What we're going to do now is put our alarm cam stuff back on, so I'm going to get all the pieces for that together, and I'm going to get my cannon pinion on there. Right, I think I'm going to do that right now, actually. We're going to get the cannon pinion on there, and then put the alarm stuff back on, and then we'll go from there. It's almost a guarantee that this thing is going to run, like, you know, when we oil it, so I don't think I'm going to test that. If it wasn't, you know, certain that it would run, I would probably try and test the balance wheel right about now. I'd wind this thing up and see what it does, but I don't think there's really a need for that, considering it was running so well before. But, well, you know what? Maybe I should test it. I'm not sure. Well, we'll go this way. You can kind of go either way with this. It's entirely up to you. Also in the background is our oil dish. This is the back of a dollar watch case that, you know, the movement was totally trashed, so I'm like, I'm just going to use this case for an oil dish. And a bottle of Liberty oil. Fresh bottle. We're going to get this going here. We're going to put a bit of Liberty in there. And then what we can do is take my oiler, literally just a screwdriver, or a nail glued to a screwdriver, because why not? You know, whatever makes a good cheap oiler. That's what I always say. I'll oil that. Very, very, you know, like put barely any on, hey? Like you're not dousing this thing with oil. And we'll put our cannon pinion on, so this guy goes on. It was on before, I believe, this way. There, I think you can see that a little better now. There's the, oh wait, hold on, which way was which? I think this is the front and this is the back. Yep, okay. That is the back of the cannon pinion, so we can just stick it on there like that. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take the time setting knob and then put it on the end of that shaft there. And kind of like almost reverse of how we had it before, we can just take our pliers again, and there's our knob. We'll just stick that on there. Whoops, that just fell off almost immediately. Take the knob, stick it on. There we go. Oh, I think that's on. This is the knob with the split in it, hey? This isn't the other one where it doesn't have a split. Okay, there's that. And then we can take our pliers and just hammer it on. So unlike before, it doesn't matter if we use a hard surface or not, because we're just hammering into the knob here. So we are all good with that. Let's see where we're at now. Our knob is most definitely on there. And this is now functioning. Great. Our cannon pinion is installed. Easy as pie. Okay, so now what we can do is take our, well, first I want to look at this. That looks, yeah, that looks like it's fine on there. Maybe it could be a little lower, but that's probably fine how it is. Next thing we can do is take our hour pipe and just stick it on there like that. Now our hour hand will now have something to actually go on to, and you know what? I should oil this. This little track here has a spring on it, on that center wheel, and that should just get a little bit of oil on it. And while the movement is nice and exposed like it is, I can just kind of, you didn't really even see what I was doing there, but I just kind of stuck my oil through there and made it work. Yeah, I wouldn't put too much oil on this though. I don't want to get oil on the front. Oh no. Let me get oil on there. There we go. That's as much oil as I'm going to put on that. Now, oh, and we're doing this just to get anywhere with friction. Hey, like that's the whole point of oiling all this stuff to begin with. So now we can stick our hour pipe on there. I'm going to oil this wheel here too, while it's exposed and nice. That wheel is riveted to our front plate. And I don't know if I like that or not, because if this thing breaks off or has some kind of issue, you can't really do much about it. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right now. So what we can do next is stick our cheese wheel through the, well, this is the cheese, I guess it's almost the cheese cam, isn't it? It's not really a cheese wheel. But the cheese cam, the cheese wheel through the wheel with the trip on it, like with the cutout slot thing there. This is when the cheese wheel, you know, when it's set to a certain position, the alarm clock, mainly this wheel here, is driving this, and it's turning around, and eventually it gets to the cheese wheel, or it gets to the slot or the open area in the cheese wheel, and then it just goes like this. And then the alarm is then free to ring, and see this thing on the back of the hammer, that is freed up. And what frees it up is this spring here. So we can just, I'm going to oil the bottom of this guy. Actually, I'm going to oil this up here too, because this is all going to be put together here right away. Oh, shoot. I'm going to oil that in here. Whoops. There we go. And then this is going to go through there. Why did I say that weird? Through there. And I can just oil that as well. There we go, there's that. And just before I even install any of that fun jazz, I'm going to not take that, or I'm going to watch that hour pipe, because if that falls off or something, you know, then I end up putting this thing together and then I have to take it apart again because that's still there. Okay, so then there's a washer that goes on the opposite end of this, so we can actually put all this in now. So we will just stick that, oh my gosh, there goes the alarm, or the hour pipe. That goes in there like that. And then it's very kind of haphazard, like from this point on. I'm just gonna stick that on the end of that shaft there, because that's where that washer goes. Oh my gosh. Or maybe it's not gonna work because it's all out like that. Oh boy. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, this is very finicky. I don't know how, like, how this was done necessarily when these were being built, how they got that washer on there. That's such an annoying little spot. I guess it's just, I'm just gonna actually pull all of this off. All of this needs to come out for just a minute. I'm gonna dab a piece or a little bit of oil on that spot where it sits, which is right in there. There's clearance there, so I can just dab that in there, and then get the washer and stick it in. Oh boy. There it is. When I stick my oiler through the hole, I can actually align it, which is exactly what I want to do. And then now that that's on there, maybe they did it like that. They just held it on there with a little dab of oil. I don't know. Okay, and then this goes on like that. Whoops, that's not what... It goes on like that, but you're not gonna... try not to misalign your washer in that process. Oh, come on. You guys can't even really see what I'm doing. There we go. See that little crack in there? That little area? I'm trying to angle that. Get that on correctly. There we go. There it is. There is the spot where it all happens. And then make sure the cheese wheel is actually tripped, like the alarm is quote-unquote tripped in this. We can flip it over, and then we can dab some oil on this area. We can put our leaf spring on, and for some of you guys are already cringing here because you know what has to come next. So that alarm setting knob there, that is pressed on in a special way at the Westclox factory. And I don't know what that special way was anymore, because any film of style 66 movements being assembled doesn't highlight this particular way it was done. It looks like there was some type of pressing machine to push this on, and that was that, and it was already preset and everything. In the state it's in right now, this will all just fall off if I even play with it. Well, Greg, how do you get the knob on here? How do you get it to stay on there and be tight and actually have tension? So when the clock is running, you know, the cheese wheel doesn't move with the gear train. And if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about right now, with your 66, you just put this assembly together and just play around with it and see how loose it is. You'll see there's no tension, and it basically doesn't work properly. So this needs to be pressed on in a certain way, and I've experimented with ways for the last like 2 years, and eventually I found one that actually kind of works. What you're looking at is the table for a Black & Decker's workmate. This one's about 20, 30, well, maybe even 30 years old. And what I've done is I've taken a piece of steel and a piece of aluminum, and I've zip tied them to the workmate. What we're going to do is stick the 66 in here, and then using the steel side, push the knob, and using the aluminum side, it'll press against this shaft there on the end of the cheese wheel. And the reason why we can't just use anything to just, you know, oh, Greg, why aren't you using 2 pieces of steel? Is because that area, if that gets flattened by a hard metal, then the alarm hand will not fit on there. And then you have to file it down. It's just a pain in the neck. So this is a softer metal. This is a harder metal. You can, you know, there's more than one answer to this problem. This is how I like to do it. I'm pretty sure PinPal20, aka Dougal, hammers it on somehow. Good for him. He's figured out his way. I am going to do it my way. So if you've got a workmate, just grab like some old piece of brass or something so that you're not using, a piece of steel, put it on here and make it work somehow. That's how I do it. So with this, what I always do is make sure the 66 is actually tripped, like the alarm is quote-unquote tripped. I've got the cheese wheel aligned with the area, and that's just so it's not, when this all gets pushed together, it gets pushed into a flat surface, not that thing where it itself could be flattened somehow. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to damage it. So then what we can do, and I'll try and actually show this as best as I can here, put the face of the cheese wheel up against that, and then slowly turn the cranks on this. I gotta make sure this is actually going in even, nice and even. And then just pressing it together and trying to make sure that it doesn't go all wacky on me, like lopsided or something like that. Okay. Yeah, see, sometimes it's not the easiest for this particular job. Actually, you know what, my bell isn't on there. I should probably put the bell on, because this doesn't have, you know, this thing is just flip-flopping all over the place. I have no gauge to see if it's even working right, so I will be right back. Okay, I admit that was done in a very weird way, and we actually kind of did it sort of wrong, but also sort of not. We put our bell on. We've got a cat in the background. We've got this trip spring here. What sort of happened was, because this spring wasn't lined up, like it wasn't screwed on here, this was just flip-flopping all over the place. So there was no real way to even tell how much this knob even needed to be pressed on. So what ended up happening was, this knob got pushed, or this leaf spring got kind of flipped around the wrong way, and then there was no tension. I had to turn it, very forcefully turn it to get it right, and weirdly enough, the tension is now good on this thing. So you can see that the clock will run, this stuff will turn, and this wheel, which is your alarm, will not reset itself. Usually what would happen is, if I actually did this right, I'd have the bell here on already, I'd have all this on, and then you'd actually be able to see the tension being kind of set on here. But sadly, this time around, you know, you didn't get to really see that happen. Well, I guess you did. You saw this stuff get pushed together. The moral of the story is, one hard surface, or one hard metal surface, one kind of softer metal surface, and bada bing, bada boom, this is actually like set up right. So if you have any questions in the comments, feel free to ask. I try to make these videos as simple to understand as possible, but sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way. you know, viewers, I'm actually going to end this video here because, again, I don't want a really long video. We've put our alarm tension stuff on. We've got our knobs on, all that fun stuff. That's great. Yeah, thank you guys for stopping by. I hope you understood what was going on, and I will see you in the next part.